Hey, what's up? Zach here, and today I have got the Nike Vapor Lite 2. I had a lot of high hopes for these because the Nike Vapor Lite, the original, I really liked. I had a gray, blue, and pink pair. I thought they were just a real kind of unsung hero in more of the budget Nike tennis space. So I was really keen on trying the Vapor Lite 2. Let's see if they lived up to any of my expectations. Let's get into it. Now right off the bat, you can see in the uppers of the Vapor Lite 2, they are pretty minimal. They really are just an entire bed of mesh. Now that is pretty interesting in terms of breathability. If you look at the breathability test on these things, they heated up 111.2 degrees, but they cool down so rapidly, 72.6 degrees. Cooling, getting back to room air, typically, remember, the more a shoe heats up, the faster it's gonna come back down and equalize with room air. These let go of heat like crazy, and I think the breathability mapping of these really tells the rest of the story. When the fog goes in, nothing happens immediately, but then after a second, you see all that fog pouring out of the mesh in the top of the shoe. Now the tongue is actually pretty thick. It is really padded and it is very comfortable. Lace line is reinforced, so yeah, the containment in the uppers isn't as good as something with a lot of foxing, a lot of TPU or plastic elements up there, or rubberized elements. But I would say for the profile of the shoe, for it trying to be a little bit more of a lighter budget shoe, you're going to get some really decent air exchange out of these. And kind of along that same vein, if you look at the upper durability test, 10-second tie grit sandpaper, this does have a little bit of a drag guard above the outsole tread, and the burr does not really make a big impression on that. So I'd say as long as you're not too extreme of a dragger or slider, these are going to be more durable than some more flagship models for really aggressive draggers or sliders. And getting into the midsole teardown, honestly, the shape of the midsole is a little more interesting than the midsole itself. It is just an entire bed of phylon. All right, so this was right around the time in the edit where I started going and looking up kind of all the media releases about the shoes. I usually don't look at those too much prior because I want to formulate my own opinion, and then I try to correlate after that. Now when I was looking up the Vapor Lite 2, Nike says that this is a dual density foam setup. Now I pulled up the strobe board because I couldn't really see what they were talking about when the strobe board wasn't up. Now I've noticed these big burr holes that they've drilled all the way through the rear foot and kind of getting into the midfoot, and that's what I think they mean by the dual density, is that in the rear foot it's allowed to compress a lot more, whereas in the distal midfoot and forefoot that foam has a lot more structure in there for pivoting, and for cutting harder, whereas in the heel is where you'd want more cushion and forgiveness when you're playing on, really unforgiving hard courts. So when you see dual density foam, that's what I found. If someone else found anything different, please leave me a comment down below. It does feel pretty forgiving, pretty doughy under there, but there is no shank on these. But as you can see, this is another one of these shoes where the midfoot of the shoe is pretty much the highest part. It really looks like a rocker underneath, and when you put the shoe kind of on the ground, there is a little bit of a rocker effect to these that does make them move a little bit easier, that makes them feel like they're moving a little bit easier. Remember, that is going to introduce a little bit more instability though too, so we'll talk about that when we get to the playability section, but watch out for that. Now if you look at this setup on the bounce height test, really no surprise, 33 centimeters in the heel, 29 in the forefoot, and when that ball bearing hit the forefoot, the sound it made was just a smack. You could actually hear the ball bearing interacting with the ground, with the concrete underneath, the concrete pad. Whereas in the rear foot, got a little bit more forgiveness. So, like I said, these aren't meant for a crazy amount of launch. There's no shank in there, so there's no diving board effect either. But all in all, if you want to keep a shoe, under a certain weight, those are the kind of things you're going to be sacrificing. And getting into the outsole tread, this is another metal tank track pattern like we've been seeing on a lot of Nike shoes. On the lateral side of that metal tank track pattern, you do get a little bit of a deeper groove, a little bit more, I'd say of a cavern between the tread lines. You're going to get a little bit more digging in versus the medial side where it is completely flat. You can tell these are meant for a sliding first type game. I'm sure that's why they went to the trouble of putting a little bit of extra drag guard on the Vapor Lites here as well. This grip it's okay when the court is a little bit grittier. I think I talked about this with the Fila Mondo Forza, when I actually test these the same day as the Fila Mondo Forza. But when the hard court is a little bit grittier, these work a lot better. When you're playing on slicker courts, maybe courts that haven't been redone in a while, that's when you're gonna start to see sliding, and you're also gonna see sliding on the lines. Now, if you look at the speed ratio of these, they do come in at a 2.40, which I think is pretty representative of these. They're easy to get up off the ground. They're easy to push off. They're easy to move in. They're really unencumbering. they're just not going to give much back to you. So if you are, let's say, a lighter player who's not going to pound through the shoe, especially a lighter player with stronger legs, I think you're actually going to get really a lot of swift movement out of these and easy movement out of these. It's just if you're looking for something to kind of give, something back to you, I'd say look somewhere else. But what was a really pleasant surprise on the Vapor Lite 2 was the Outsole durability test, 10 seconds high grit sandpaper as well. Not even a millimeter of damage. The durometer came in at a 22.5, which is really off the charts, especially for a budget model shoe. So, in terms of durability, especially for a budget model shoe and to sliding, especially with this type of pattern, really, these are just as good as anything else. And looking at the fit of the Vapor Lite 2, pleasantly surprised. My 2E foot really did not have much trouble in these. I had a little bit of issue for a little while until I broke them in. But a narrow medium foot, I would say go true to size. A 2E, I think, can go up 1/2 size comfortably. You could always try to create another knot in these to make a runner's knot to lock yourself in. You go up over 1/2 size, you are going to start to introduce a lot of heel slipping into these, so I would say watch out for that. A 4E, I'd say maybe try to break them in 1/2 size up. If you go 1 size up, like I said, you might introduce some slipping into there. In terms of the snake bitten foot, these really, to me, need a low profile orthotic in there, something to brace that foam. And once again, just something to make the rear foot of the shoe just a little bit more secure. The heel counter just, it isn't really containing on there. So if you have a pretty deep heel cupped orthotic in there, you actually might be able to introduce a little bit more stability for yourself. Like I said, I think with an orthotic for a lot of things, they're okay. But for somebody with instability, you might just want to look into a shoe that has a little bit more of a stout midsole to kind of keep you harnessed to the ground. And last but certainly not least, getting into the playability of the Vapor Lite 2s, I will say that they were better than I thought they were going to be when I took them out of the box, for sure. They weren't up to the level of the Vapor Lite 1s, unfortunately. I thought those just really, threaded that needle perfectly in terms of a lighter weight budget model shoe. These ones, they gripped better than I thought they would. They were a little bit more stable than I thought they were. They weren't the most stable thing out there for sure. And the weight of them was really nice underfoot. Now, I played with these the same day as I played with the Fila Mondo Forza. They actually gripped a lot better than the Fila Mondo Forza. And on the courts I was on, I didn't really notice a lot of slippage in these, and those are well-maintained courts. So I actually had a pretty decent time in these. I think because they are so light and malleable, your foot is kind of allowed to contact the ground a little bit better on the forefoot, so maybe that's why you get a little more tactile sense, even with the rocker in there. I still wouldn't be putting these on a slick court, to be honest, or a carpet court, anything like that. I don't think they'll do as well. I think on a rubberized court, I actually don't think that they'll do that bad. I think the rubber will interact pretty decent with that as well. So I would say for more of a north to south shoe, right, a double shoe, serve and volleying, especially with an orthotic, I think they do okay. Side to side, really aggressive all-court play. I would say you just better be the right foot type for these. You better not be unstable, and I think they'll be okay too. Like I said, I hope maybe in the Vapor Lite 3 we see maybe a little bit more of the Vapor Lite 1, just because, like I said, that shoe to me was just so surprising, and it was just one of the best shoes that I had reviewed it in that little time frame of shoes, even against a lot more flagship shoes. I love in terms of the durability of the Vapor Lite 2s. I think you get a lot for what you pay for in terms of durability. So if you like the outsole tread of the Vapor Pro 2 and the Vapor 11, yeah, the Vapor Lite is going to be really nice for you, and you're going to get a similar pattern of durability. It's just that you're going to have to get used to the difference in midsole shape from the Vapor Pro 2 and Vapor 11, which are ultra stable shoes. Whatever your opinion is of, if you love them, hate them, or neutral, they are ridiculously bottom stable, right? Like, it is hard to roll those shoes. Whereas in these, with the lighter profile, I think it'd be a little bit easier. So, like I said, similar durability, similar profile of sliding, just got to get used to I'd say the weight and kind of feeling underfoot of these. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on these, especially just, because we've had a lot of the similar lined shoes, right? Especially in the outsole from the Vapor Pro 2, Vapor 11, and now Vapor Lite. So let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to see the older sibling to the Vapor Lite 2, the Vapor Pro 11 Mac Attack collab shoe, which is a pretty cool shoe, make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect, rubber, and foam. I'll see you somewhere in the Sneakerverse.